Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Hello, everyone in AO. And Sean Thomas, thanks always for inviting me to do these lives and get to help and give back in any way that I can. So let's jump right into the questions. All right, the first one is from Allison Koyanagi. The question is, would you recommend self-funding or getting an investor for a new product-based business? And now let's read the background to this. So Allison owns a digital marketing agency, and she has an idea for a new business. The only problem is that I've never created a product from scratch. I've run a few of the numbers, not all, to get a prototype made and the possible profit margin and so forth. There's definitely a market for this, and although I don't want to say anything specific, it falls into the health and fitness industry. It'll be worth it to create. Let's see. It'll be worth it to create, but I'm not sure if I should self-fund this project or get an investor, especially around this COVID time because I'm really tight with spending. Allison, this is a really personal question because I don't know how much money you have. I don't know what your risk tolerance is. Could you sleep at night? Could you still run your marketing agency if you've got a lot of eggs in that new basket? So that, again, you've got to figure that out for yourself. I'd keep doing research and keep figuring it out and get this ball down the field as far as you can before you bring in an investor. But at some point, if you're not comfortable with the amount you're going to have to spend, you'll have to really consider an investor. On the flip side, interest rates are lower than they've been in 50 years, and you can probably borrow money for pretty cheap if you're that confident. Because the reality is, if you qualify for the money and you have the know-how and don't need a partner, then you're just going to give away equity, obviously, for something in return. So that's fair. It's cash. That person will help you build the business. But if you think you can cross that bridge on your own, then maybe it's something you do on your own. But again, you have to know yourself. This is a deep question to figure out, if I put this much money on the line of my own, or I borrow all this money, will I sleep at night? Will I still be productive in my marketing business and in this new business? How many hats can you wear? So start analyzing that stuff and questioning who you are a little bit. And I think that exercise on its own will be fantastic for you. So go through that process and let's see what happens. Good luck, Allison. All right. Let's see. We've got Kelly Killingsworth. And the question is, how do I keep my team busy and continue to grow through the winter months? Winter is coming, and I recently started my construction company. Right now, we are primarily building decks and fencing and home projects. Next summer is when I will expand into heavy equipment operations and disaster relief/rehab. I'm stressing how I will lead my team through the winter months and to keep growing. I need to begin to prepare my team for the near future. Interestingly enough, Kelly, I cannot relate. I live in Miami, so construction's year-round. It's still 80 degrees in the winter. So I'm assuming you're in a very cold place where construction just shuts down for the winter. Well, what other things are needed? I have friends who are in the mold remediation business, which can then tie into possible construction and rehab. And, when it rains a lot here, when there's a hurricane, when the big storms, leaking will go into a place and they get an adjuster to come, they get a quote, and then they go in and repair the walls, repair the roof, do all those sorts of things. So I'm assuming, I know nothing about winter. I've barely seen snow in my life, but if it snows a lot, is that similar to rain? Does that mean that damage can come into the unit, into the house, and could that be a possible business for you? Then in the winter you kind of shift to that. Another thing, I've seen this firsthand. I've seen companies that in the winter months, they have the staff, they're hardworking, strong guys who can do all kinds of jobs. So what else is needed? What's needed in the winter? Is it plowing snow? Is it shoveling snow? Is it hanging up Christmas lights? And I don't mean just a couple lights. I'm talking about companies that because I've seen some of these companies where all year they have a warehouse with all these lights and they don't touch it. They have other things that they do during those parts of the year. But then in the winter, they'll go and do big commercial projects, big homes, and they hang up all their lights. And they're not cheap. I've gotten quotes for them. It's, you can spend $1,000 on a house putting up Christmas lights. So if you're in an area where you might be able to get a market like that and you see an opportunity, just think of it that way. In fact, I'm in the e-commerce world. I own 12 Shopify Plus sites and looking to grow and do more. And mine are kind of not seasonal, other than Q4 is always the best quarter. But throughout the year, they're very steady and good. But I've looked at businesses to buy where they're, for example, one that's just holiday. You're going to make those sales come November 1st to Christmas, right? And you just boom during that time. I thought that's pretty interesting. You can have a business that does that. See, but for some people that's not profitable, because then they sit the rest of the year doing nothing. But if you already got the infrastructure, that might make sense. So then I've looked at, what would be interesting? A patriotic business in the U.S. where you can sell flags, and that would be like Memorial Day, 4th of July would be a big one, things like that. So that fills those months of the year, May, June, July. And then you could buy, because I've gone through these processes and looked at these businesses for sale. It's kind of a big roll-up strategy. But then buy a business that's Halloween costumes. And that'll boom the entire month of October. So it's kind of like you could have 6 different businesses and they've all got their peak moments. So you're always firing on all cylinders. They just happen to be different cylinders for that season. So hopefully that can help, and just thinking differently and finding out what you could do. Because a lot of your guys, if they're able to do construction, they're able to hang up Christmas lights, right? I'm sure there's videos online to figure it out real quick. And from what I see, they're wrapping them around big palm trees and they're putting them across buildings and things like that. I hope that helps, Kelly. All right. Next one is Brad Coleman. Question is, when shipping physical products to my customers, what are the best options for shipping rates, and what other factors should I take into consideration to lower costs and ensure maximum profitability? Story is, I had a fulfillment center shipping out products off my Shopify platform-based store. I didn't worry about the shipping costs because it's pre-populated in the checkout area. Now that I have to fill my own orders and my content more branded and ship the way I want to do it, customers will still check out and choose 1 to 3 day shipping via USPS. I found that checkout costs versus in-person drop-off are different. So Brad, I assume by in-person drop-off you must mean like physically taking things to someone local. Yeah, that's probably a lot more expensive, I would imagine. Even if it doesn't cost you anything, it's your time, your gas, your car. So anyway, that's if we're talking about local drop-off, that's usually for a micro business. But if we're talking e-commerce and all the possibilities are out there, you're going to be shipping. You won't be dropping things off if you really want to grow. So as far as shipping, I'll share from my experience and tell you what I would do. The U.S. Postal Service sucks. They're so unreliable. Things get lost. But here's the flip side. We use them, and we do hundreds and hundreds of packages a day with the U.S. Postal Service. And the reason is they're so cheap. It's unrealistically cheap. It's how do you say? It's held up by the taxes and the federal government kind of supporting the Postal Service, because it's unrealistic how cheap it is. You can get a small package across the country, a t-shirt, let's say, for like $3 something or $4 maybe, and it's there in a few days, right? So I recommend using the Postal Service whenever possible, because you're talking here about how to maximize profitability. And occasionally you will have people saying they did not receive it, and the Postal Service will lose packages. It's a guarantee. When I started, maybe once a week I'd get a package reported lost. Then it became 2, then it became 20, then it became 50, but that kind of goes with the volume that you're doing. So as long as you're willing to absorb the occasional hit, you're kind of self-insuring yourself by going with Postal Service, because you can use FedEx or UPS, and they are so reliable. They're private companies. They're going to do much better. However, they are way more expensive, right? So that's kind of the thing to weigh out. I hope that helps. Try different options. If you want to try, offer Postal Service, offer FedEx Ground. You can offer FedEx Priority as well. But if you're going to be fulfilling this yourself, just make sure you're not shipping once a week. If someone orders and they pay for FedEx Express, that better go out that day, because that's the reality. They're in a hurry. In our fulfillment center, we've built an algorithm that prioritizes of the picking based on their shipping method. So if you have 800 orders ahead of you, and you just came in and ordered right now, and you chose FedEx overnight, you're on the very next batch of orders automatically. It's because we want to make sure to impress that person, get you the email that says your stuff's on the way. Either way, it's all going to go out today, but we want to get your email, and you're showing you, because that person's in a hurry, So they're probably going to be customer service inquiries asking when did you ship. So get those people taken care of as fast as possible. But if there's no rush on your product, Postal Service is definitely the way to go. It's all going to go Postal Service first class until it hits, I think it's 13 ounces, maybe it's 16 ounces. They may have changed that. Then it jumps up to priority mail, which gets to most of the country within 2 to 3 days. And I think you're in Texas, so you'd probably get everywhere in the country in 2 days with priority mail. And priority mail, by the way, hopefully is not just for Brad. Anybody ever ships anything, priority mail has flat rate packaging that it doesn't matter how much the box weighs, you fill that box up and it's a set price. So you can put bricks in there or you can put feathers in there and it's the exact same cost to get that same box. It's a flat rate, and that flat rate means just that. It's a one rate for everybody who ships that box. Give me 1 second. Let me have a sip of water here. All right. The next question looks like it comes from Hungary, and I believe you would pronounce the name Gabor Raz. And his question is there a way I can ask for feedback and actually get some honest responses from our past subscribers about why they didn't renew their subscription? And here's the background. Our company's main product is an annual magazine subscription. Due to technical and psychological limitations, auto-recurring subscriptions aren't common in our country yet. So when our subscribers expire, we rely on email and mail to convince them to renew their subscription. Normally, this works quite effectively. Our benchmark renewals is 70% in any given month. However, this August was beyond terrible, with only 32% of expiring subscribers choosing to renew. I can't think of any logical reasons for this outlier result, so I'm looking for help on what questions I would ask to find out the real reason, as well as how I can introduce why we're reaching out. I can either email these subscribers or I can ask them on the phone. So let's read into this. Okay, so you said you can't figure out a logical reason for this outlier. So I'm assuming that the content is as high a quality as it was before. You did nothing to upset anyone. There were no mistakes on this magazine. There was nothing controversial. Those sort of things. So an annual magazine subscription. So I know there are magazines that have been hit. I remember once, maybe it was around 2000. It was right after 9/11. National Geographic got hit with a really bad, something came out really bad. One of their writers wrote something kind of anti-American after September 11th and the terrorism acts. And it hit them really hard, and they lost a lot of subscribers. So I'm assuming you don't have anything that controversial, but I would revisit the content just to make sure there was nothing there. And now going forward, because nothing you can do about the past other than learn from it, but going forward, could you send out a poll and offer a free subscription renewal for people who answer it? And I don't mean everybody. You're going to put them in a drawing. So quick, we just need you to answer these questions, and we're going to select X amount of people to get a free subscription. Right? So now, if they really like your magazine, they'll fill out this thing that should only take them a couple minutes, hopefully. And then you'll give away a few of them. I'm assuming there's not too much cost for you to give that away. And you get them back in the loop, right? So you may not get this month's income from it, but you'll get them back, and maybe you'll extend a lifetime. So you said you have the option, because as I was reading it, my first thing is, man, if you could get on the phone with these people, that would be the most telling thing. An email is one thing, but a phone call is magical. And you said it here. You said I can either email these subscribers or I can call them on the phone. Number one, I would email everyone, because what do you have to lose? What's the cost of sending some emails? Auto-generated email with a poll. We've done these before. We do a poll. We even leave blank spaces for them to fill it out. We do that through a Google sheet that they get, and it's a landing page. They fill it all out, and you get all the results. It's fantastic. Now, you can get on the phone with them. Absolutely. You're going to get some great insight into their mind. You said there's some technical as well as psychological limitations in your country. Perfect. Let's figure out exactly what they are, and who better than to talk to these people, right? I notice people get stuck sometimes, and in middle school, in a science class, a teacher, I'll never forget, Miss Chapman, this is 30-something years ago, said that in the dark ages, people would philosophize and discuss things, and they would talk about something as simple as, how many teeth does a horse have? And they would actually I think it's 30. Well, I think it's 28. Well, I say it's 40 because their mouth is this big. And no one would go out and do the research and just open the horse's mouth and see, or wait till he dies, and then you look at it and you see how many teeth they have. That's it. So this is a simpler situation. Let's not talk about it, or talk about it now. Let's have some action. It's getting on the phone. I would, like I said, do the email and jump on the phone. Tell them, hey, they know your intentions. You want them to renew. And we say, and how do you have that conversation? You know how to have it. We are so sorry that we lost you. We want to see if we can get you back. And we really, more than anything, want your insight. Your insight means so much to us, and it'll help us put a better product for future people. Even if you never rejoin, we value your insight. And people like that. People want to be heard. Just like employees, it's not just about how much money you pay them. It's about how you hear them out, how you make them feel. So same with your customers, absolutely. All right, Gabor, I hope that helps. One more sip here, one moment. All right. Next one is from my friend Joe Nugent. Joe, the home pro, one of the nicest people I know. Okay, his question is, when do I know that it's time to start delegating and hiring people in my new business? And what programs and software do you use to automate emails and scheduling? I'll answer the easy one first. There's so much software out there, Joe, and they're all fantastic, and some are a little bit better and some are a little not as good. But any service company that's dispatching people out there, just talk to them. What do you use? Do you like it? And then next, what do you use? Do you like it? And you can ask a painting contractor. Since you're in the home industry, if you just talk to the people you know in your industry, you'll find it. There's Field Service Lightning, which is like a high-end system. I have a client who works on that, so I've seen that work. It dispatches. They have a screen in their office. They see all the drivers on the map, all this stuff. You may not need something that sophisticated yet or ever. So, but as far as automating emails, depends what you need. Again, and scheduling, yeah. There's software that clients can open a ticket. It gets into a batch, and then it gets dispatched to a certain person, and they answer it, and then send out a driver. There's so much software out there, and it's inexpensive. And don't go overboard. Just get what you need. You don't have to buy something that you'll grow into eventually. You can figure it out as you go. Just don't spend the money if you don't need to. Now, when's it time to start delegating and hiring people in my new business? I am a firm believer, and I'm a 4-hour work week guy. I'm not working the 80 hours I used to work anymore. I did that for about 15 years or 20 years. When do you know when to start hiring people? Well, Joe, number one, when you're super busy and there's plenty of money, right? Okay, there's no more you can do. Here's the time in the day. You got to be with your kids. You got to do your thing. You got to live. You got to sleep. You got to eat. All these things. And work is filling it the rest up, and there's no more. Now you've hit the capacity. Well, the reason I hire people is to do the things that I don't want to do. And the one thing I don't outsource is the big level thinking, the strategy. That's me coming up with the ideas. I'm open to everybody's ideas, but I'm the quarterback when it comes to the big ideas and acquiring and growing like that. But so I hire people to do the things that I don't want to do. So you should always, Joe, not just you, everyone here, you should always put your CEO cap on and say, is this something that a CEO would do? Could I grow my business if I keep doing this? And trust me, I've cleaned toilets in my warehouses and in my offices. I've done that in the beginning. And then I started realizing, wait. I could go send this email that can make me $10,000, or I can keep cleaning this toilet. It's time to hire somebody to clean the toilet, right? And not just that. How will you feel and how will you grow your business if you're doing all the stuff you hate forever? You got to do it in the beginning, and it's great for you. But eventually, you got to wake up every morning and be in love with your business. And the only way to do that, I think, is if you're doing all the parts of the business that are awesome, that you really enjoy doing. So eventually, I hope you'll let go of the crappy stuff and just focus on the big picture stuff that you enjoy, and then manage the people to do the repetitive stuff. Hope that helps, Joe. Joe, the home pro. All right. So next one is Christopher Joseph. Relationship question. We don't get too many of those here. How do I balance school and working on developing my business and having a relationship? I'm in school full time and working on starting my business and wondering what I can do to have a balance. What I can do to have and balance a relationship at the same time. Should I stop the relationship and focus on me, or is there any way to do it all? Let's see. Christopher, I've been there 100%. whether it's with my wife of 18 plus years or before that when I was building earlier, smaller businesses and I had different girlfriends. I made one thing clear is that this is me. This is what I do. I worked full time, I had a part time job, I went to school at night, and I had a business on the side. And that's who I was. That's who I am. And that allowed me maybe to go out on a date once a week for a few hours, right? And then we go back and I just start working at home. Um, if that's who you are, if that's what you have as an aspiration, you're here today, you want to be here eventually, and this is the map, the plan that's going to get you there. You have to figure out, does this help me get to my long-term vision? And by the way, long-term vision could be a long-term relationship with someone. So going on a date does help you get to that thing, but you got to figure out what you want, and then you got to make sure you have the right partner with you along the way. Otherwise, there's going to be fights, and you're going to be so driven and not pay attention to that person, and they're going to take it the wrong way. When in fact, you're saying, I'm building all this so that we could go out and do this. So I'll give you my experience. I worked really, really hard, and I mean, I'm not just saying that like most people say they work hard. I was working sometime in the summers. I did 2 full-time jobs because I wasn't in school in the summer. And it took me 10 years to earn a bachelor's degree, which is fine. I never used it. I just did it to do it. I paid for it myself ever since I was 18, so no support. So it took a while. So what I did was work all the time, and I always had a girlfriend. And but they knew that that was part of my vision, and that's what I had to accomplish. And I always said, if this goes on forever and we got married, then there's going to be a lot of rewards at the end. It didn't work out with a couple of girls, and that's just a filtration process that happens over life. And then it worked out with one girl, and I've been married for over 18 years now. Now, I worked all those years struggling and getting everything going, and then at 39, I retired. So, and my wife retired at 29 as a registered nurse and was able to stop working since then. So that was 10 years ago. So there's a big reward at the end if you do all this, but you have to be with someone that understands that sacrifice. And maybe right now you're young, I'm assuming, you're in college, and who you're with now is probably might not be the person that you end up with. So none of this matters. However, if you're serious and you're looking at long term, you should only be with someone that you could see yourself with forever. Otherwise, and that's just my opinion. This isn't the right way. It's just my way of looking at things. And so that person should understand your goals, and you should understand that person's goals, and then hopefully you guys connect well. And just like you can do the culture index and predictive index and all these things for potential employees and that sort of thing, all this stuff exists for relationships too. So when you think you're pretty serious about someone, you can do these tests and make sure that you guys align properly. It may sound crazy because it's kind of like a job interview of sorts, but I can only speak for myself. I've been very happily married for over 18 years, and we went through a process to figure out if we went through a program before we got married that 40% of the people that go through it end up breaking up. And we did that, and we flew through it, and it shows. So same thing in your situation. Maybe that could help. All right, Christopher, hope that's good. Corey Van Wyck. Let's see. How have you been able to overcome or prevent overthinking so you can get more done each day? Here's the background, and it's a long one. Right now, the rate at which I'm getting projects and daily tasks done is too slow. This is hurting both my company's efficiency and my ability to make money. At first, I thought it was a scheduling issue, but even if I have a strict schedule, I'm not sure I would be able to work fast enough during my blocks of time because I constantly overthink the task itself. There are too many thoughts that run through my head to put here, but if I had to summarize them, they are all some form of, am I doing this the right way? So then that leads me to do more research, which leads to analysis paralysis, and another day goes by with nothing meaningful getting done. Even this message is taking way longer than it should, because in the back of my head I'm thinking, is this making sense? Am I leaving out any important information? Dang it, now I'm behind on other things. Hopefully that's enough context. Thanks in advance for your help. And so this is interesting. The elevator pitch is for Corey's company is we help leaders of any kind get their message across in a more personal and impactful way through teaching the art of science and science of communication. The irony here is, Corey, this is kind of like a heart surgeon who smokes. So you help with the communication and the getting a message across, but you yourself are having issues in your mind getting these messages across within your own synaptic connections. So I understand this. I know that this happens. I think this might be a self-confidence issue, in my opinion. I would do exercises to build that confidence. And I don't know, and I mean, it could be physical exercises maybe to kind of get you to overcome. I would get myself out of very uncomfortable situations. I would put myself in very uncomfortable situations if I were you. I would go do some things that you've never done and just do them. I don't know if you need a coach to push you off that airplane and get you to jump or rappel down a mountain. I think you're a little bit too comfortable, and that encapsulates you and keeps you in this little box where, well, I can't be uncomfortable and I can't make a wrong decision and I can't take a risk. Take a risk. Be uncomfortable. What's the problem? Is the world going to end? On the contrary, you will get more done in a day. And you really have to have high standards for your time. You know, first you thought it was a scheduling issue. I'm glad. The good thing is here that you're realizing there's a problem. So I'd work on this problem. I love these sort of challenges because this is all mindset. You're going to see one day when you figure this out. I hope you do. I hope you get somebody to help you work through it if you can afford it. And you're going to see that it's just some small shift. And 6 months later, you're going to say, wow, I'm a whole new person. I can't believe, look what I've done in 6 months. It's more than I've done in the last 24 years. And there's a massive value to that. And you're going to see that it's this tiny little decision that you have to make, but you have to make them a few times. But go do something that's really going to put you in an uncomfortable situation. Not dangerous. Don't go literally jump off a plane if you don't want to, and especially without a parachute. But do some uncomfortable things and see how when you do them and things happen and you didn't die. It wasn't the end of the world. And do it with no thought. Just jump and do it. Put yourself in some situations. Again, don't go kill yourself or do anything too risky, but I see it. I've seen this before, and I've worked with people on these sort of things. You could do this. Just look for those opportunities where you can get outside your comfort zone. All right. Hope that helps. All right. Next question is from Rohit Gupta. How do I know what steps to take to start my new online business? I'm brand new to e-commerce and my first online business. Trying to understand it more. I know I need to understand branding, copy, graphics, etc. Do I start with learning Shopify, or do I start with branding, or do both? Like I said, I'm brand new and looking to put together the right steps to get this going. I don't even know what products I'm going to sell yet. Rohit, I think you might be overthinking this. Go look at products first. That's my number one thing. Because what if you have this beautiful plan and you still can't find a product and you never do? And you did what? A year of planning? For what? What are you going to execute on? There's nothing to execute on. Go find products. Go on Alibaba, AliExpress. Go on whatever. Look for products and see, okay, I can buy things for this price. Let me see what these products sell for on Amazon. Just as a potential thing there. And then on other Shopify sites and other websites. And then just start learning the market. I've done this. One thing that really helped me get going many years ago, I started looking at what people were buying on eBay. And I'd see that they'd start a listing at $9.99 for a popular item, and then it would get up to $50 potentially. And I kept watching those type of listings. Like literally, I'd record them, I'd graph them, and then I'd keep watching them over a week. It was auction settings back then. Now it's more buy it now type things like Amazon. But I kept seeing, okay, things are selling for this much. How much would it cost me to get these things? And then I'd start looking for suppliers, and I just saw if that made sense. And then you don't have to learn, like you said here, learning branding, copy, graphics, etc. Guess what? I sell millions of dollars online, e-commerce. I'm no expert in branding. I mean, I'm okay at it. I'm definitely no expert in copy or graphics. You just start ugly. Start ugly. Start and do the best you can. And then you're going to go, it would probably be better if I tweak this. And then you tweak that, and then you go this. And yet by the end, you've got this great product. But you don't have to start beautiful. In fact, you can Google, I think it's called the Wayback Machine. Google that and see what comes up. It should be a website that allows you to put in any company's URL. So you put their website address there. And you can pick a date. And you can see how that website looked 20 years ago, how it looked 15 years ago, how it looked 10 years ago. And you're going to see the farther you go back, the uglier those sites were. And some of them are big companies. Look at Amazon when they started. Their main page was disgusting. It was horrible. All these companies were. So just start and then start improving. Now, you have one benefit. When those companies started, there were hardly any e-commerce sites to get inspired by or copy. There's a there's millions. There are millions of sites now that you can say, I like how this looks. They seem to be popular, and I think I could probably do something like this. And then you just figure that out. All you have to do is learn how to get that page to your page to look that way. You don't have to go code. On Shopify, you get a template, a bunch of free ones, or you buy one for 100, 200, 300, whatever they cost, and now you can get your site looking that way. So I hope that helps. I hope you find a product or a series of products. And remember, the first product you find and you say, that's it, that's what I'm going to start with, that's your idea. You can go and try that. The market will eventually decide if that was a good idea or not. So don't have blinders on like a horse. Be open to opportunities, because you could start selling these and then you realize, you know what, the market, I'm also offering some of these, and these mugs are selling better. So don't limit yourself to what you started with. Be open to different things. And I hope that helps, Rohit. The next, I think the next two questions, two separate questions, same person. And I'll answer them, I'll ask it and answer them separately to keep it simple here. Is from Trish Murphy. And this is, what are some good ways of liquidating excess inventory quickly? I sell false eyelashes, beauty products, and men's grooming products. I've been holding on to a lot of excess inventory that I'm unable to liquidate on my websites. My financial situation would really improve if I could liquidate these items and have the cash flow instead of just needing to store them. Okay, so the elevator pitch here is, I sell false eyelashes to makeup artists, beauty supply stores, salons, and the end consumer. Okay, and the website is eyelashesunlimited.com. So if anybody's watching this and you want to get a really good deal, go there. Okay, so you want to liquidate stuff. I'd like to see, I used to liquidate a lot to liquidators, and it was always horrible. My manufacturing cost would be $3 on products of my brands that I own, and I liquidate for $2. It was always a loss. I hated it. And it was kind of an end of the season type thing. You get stuck with an extra 800 pieces. What do you do with them? You have broken sizes. How do you have medium and you have XL, but you don't have small, you don't have large, things like that. So I'd always liquidate. That was before, when I was a wholesaler. Once I went direct to consumer, which I assume eyelashesunlimited.com, you can sell direct to consumer. It was way better, because my manufacturing cost was $3, but the retail cost was $15, right? So because I was now going direct to the consumer, I do a 50% off sale and sell them for $7.50, and people loved it and bought a bunch of it, and they were happy with us, and I still made $4.50 on the product. So I don't know, I'm not going to click on it right now while we're talking here, but I don't know if Eyelashes Unlimited is just for wholesale or if it's also direct to consumer. I hope that you're selling direct to consumer. And if you don't want to offend your wholesale clients, you set up a whole new website that just looks like it's a customer of yours reselling the stuff. No one needs to know that that's you. And that way you have access to the consumer. Because maybe those beauty supply stores and salons are hurting right now because of COVID, but the final consumer can still buy direct from you if they'd like. Also, I understand, if people aren't going out as much, they're probably not wearing as many fake eyelashes. So that's I know that could be a dilemma. You did mention also men's grooming products. If you want to hit me up online, I have a decent sized men's business, and maybe that's something we could look at and see what you're offering. All right, the next question from Trish Murphy, same person, is for e-commerce, is it better to use a fulfillment center or do one's own storage and fulfillment? I do e-commerce and sell false eyelashes. I have over 600 SKUs, and my profit margin on each item isn't very high, usually about $1 to $2 per item. Most people order in bulk, at least 12 pair of eyelashes, but some order 50 to 100 pairs. I've had 5 fulfillment centers since launching my business almost 9 years ago. I only had one that did a great job, but they went bankrupt and in the process really hurt my business. I would prefer to outsource as much as possible, but each of these fulfillment centers has hurt my business very significantly. Do these operations make sense for certain types of businesses, but not for all? Is it better to get my own warehouse and hire my own employees? Okay. So I am hearing this so much because I own a fulfillment center, and I hear it constantly, that people are not happy with the fulfillment center that they have or used to have. I don't know what it is, that the standards have been so low to set up fulfillment centers that everybody goes to these poor performers, and I think it's sad to see. As far as is it, your general question, I'm glad you give the backup, because the general question is it better to use a fulfillment center or do your own storage and fulfillment? That depends. It depends on a lot of things. Are you good at running your own fulfillment center? Do you want to hire a staff and be responsible for employees? And are you going to be open 7 days a week and shipping and taking care of all of that? If you're not, and you do the math sometimes, that's probably more expensive than to just outsource. Because when you outsource to a fulfillment center, the benefit is, I'm not trying to sell you on our services. We're not actively hunting clients or anything, but the benefit is we're open 7 days a week. The employees are already here. To use our labor is a minimal part of their overall expense, right? You're not paying their 401k like we do. You're not paying their full medical benefits like we do, their salaries, all of that. We take care of it. Or any fulfillment center, they'll take care of that. So it's really a numbers game. You have to have the volume. Either way, you really have to have the volume to justify, and then you do the math on both. You get a quote from a good fulfillment center that has to come highly recommended, and you have to feel very comfortable, and visit them. Visit how they operate, because I've visited a lot of warehouses, a lot of fulfillment centers, and there's very few that are very good, and then there's a ton that are the rest that are not good. And they're also going to sabotage you and hold you hostage with your products if you leave, and they make it a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. I'd be happy to look at your numbers and see what you're spending, and at least give you an idea. Well, if you found a fulfillment center that charges this, obviously only of the most reliable ones, so we're not going to look at the bad ones, and if, as long as the numbers are here, then it seems to make sense. But everything you're saying, with low margin, you're making $1 to $2 per item. That's okay on a 100-pair order. The problem is, when someone might buy 6 or something, that's not a good business there. However, if you're building a brand and people are getting to know you because you're going through getting into these stores, I would really focus on e-commerce and building this direct to consumer, because in the price, I'm assuming if you're making $1 to $2 now and you go direct to consumer, you're going to be making $2 to $4 per, right? And consumers could buy 12, right? 12 pairs. That's not anything out of this world. So yeah, the focus there, I would try to look at going direct to consumer and doing the math on different fulfillment centers. But it's not a general answer for everyone. Well, guys, I hope this helps. I hope you guys, whether those were your questions or not, or you listen to this in the future in the library, I hope you got something out of each one of these, or even out of just one of these. If you just get a little nugget out of something, and by the way, a lot of the times it's not what you hear right now, it's what this means to you 6 months from now or a year from now, because you could hear something from an experienced person, a successful person, and it doesn't make sense today, but as they say, the teacher appears when the student is ready. I've read books and not quite understood many of the lessons, and then I've read it 2 years later, and in 2 years I'm a completely different person. I keep evolving and improving. So now the book makes sense, because now I get the lesson. I go, oh, that's what they meant. I guess I didn't understand it because I wasn't there in my life yet. So I hope this stuff, take in information, process it, and start putting things into action, and I think you'll see the results from it. Have a good day. Thank you for joining me.